Astrology isn't just about signs and symbols. It's a tool for navigating real life. Hello, and welcome to Astrology with Alisa. I'm your host, Alisa Dixon, and I'm so glad you're here. Let's dive in. Surprise! I bet you weren't expecting a bonus episode today. Though honestly, it's not really a bonus at all. It's the very first audio replay of my new weekly YouTube show, Astrology with Alisa, Real Talk with My Astro Besties. There's a whole backstory to how this came to life, and I'll share it with you on tomorrow's regularly scheduled podcast. But for now, for those of you who prefer audio over video, but still love a good conversation, this one's for you. It's talk show style, astrology rich, and full of laughs, real life stories, and cosmic insights. And if you want to watch the video version, I'll drop the YouTube link in the show notes. So I'll see you tomorrow for the rest of the story, but for now, take a listen to me and 4 of my Astro Besties chatting all about moon sign energy in real life. All right. So hello, everybody, my Astro Bestie friends. I'm so excited to talk with you today. For the benefit of everybody out there on YouTube, I'm Alisa and I am a Capricorn moon. Holly.
Hey everyone, I'm Holly. I'm an Aries moon.
Lori.
Hi everyone, I'm Lori. I'm a Virgo moon.
Katie.
Hi, I'm Katie and I'm a Libra moon.
And Irina.
Hi, Irina here and Cancer moon.
All right. So we've got a wide variety of our group, and we are going to dive in talking through astrological examples of moon signs in real life. So why don't we go in order through the zodiac, starting with Aries and ending with Pisces. And Holly, you have the Aries moon. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how that shows up in your day-to-day life, especially when stressed or sad, or how you have to manage your emotions with your Aries moon?
Yeah, sure. So I'll probably be one of the exciting ones today. My Aries moon is very fast and vocal and active. And when I get stressed or I feel like I'm walking into the dark side, if you will, unfortunately, everyone knows it. I curse, I yell, I slam phones, I drive too fast, I listen to 90s rap music, right? And the good news is, once the steam blows out, then I can really sort of calm down and move on. So I think for me, I have had to mature into understanding that that level of energy and power that comes out is frankly terrifying for some people. I've had people in my family tell me that when I'm angry, I'm scary. I've had people that I work with tell me that when I'm angry, I'm scary. And it's because it happens so fast and so loudly, right? And so I've had to realize when I feel that steam sort of bubbling up before it comes out my mouth and out my hands and out my feet and I'm driving too fast, that I need to take a breath and figure out how I'm going to process that. Because if I try to sit on it, it just builds and the blow up is even bigger. So I've learned that I have to have some trusted people I can call to say, I'm really upset and I feel like I'm going to lose it and I need to just talk this through with somebody. When I'm with people I really trust, like my husband, who I'll talk about later as a Pisces moon, I will literally say, don't try to fix it. Don't try to solve it. Let me get this out. Don't ask any questions. And oftentimes if I do that, I can then move past the emotion and get back to how I really am naturally, which is very analytical and strategic, right? I'm not typically explosive like that, right? Unless something triggers me. So yeah, that's how my Aries moon shows up when I'm stressed. And over the years, that's how I've learned to deal with it. And frankly, my family has learned to not take it personally, right? Like my husband's okay with saying peace out, right? Like if the explosion's happening and he can't fix it and I don't want to talk about it, he's just going to give me my space to have the blow up and not take it personally. It's only taken us 30 years to get there, but we're there.
That is such a good point, though, because knowing your own energy is so important, but then also with the people that you spend day to day with, your closest circle, those are the people where you all need to figure out how to manage these moon energies. And another thing you said that was so cool was I'm not usually this angry person. I'm actually very analytical as a person. We all get so blinded with emotion sometimes, and we just can't climb out of it sometimes. And that's the whole point of this, is to celebrate every moon sign and give tips on how to climb out of it. So that's a great point, Holly. The people closest to you, they know how to handle you at this point. You have specific people you talk to that you can really do your Aries moon with to be able to get past it and get on with your life and be your productive self. That's awesome. Does anybody else have any examples of friends or family with Aries moons that would like to jump in?
Great to hear you speaking about this because my daughter is an Aries moon. And as a child, it was so interesting because when she got overwhelmed, stressed, going to the grocery store in the afternoon when it's nap time and she's tired and hungry, not the best time, but sometimes as a working mom, you go when you can. And I'll never forget, she had one of the absolute worst just temper tantrums because she was overwhelmed and overstimulated and she needed to let off that steam. Now, I innately knew this about her. She's 17 now, and this was back like when she was 2 years old. I didn't know she had an Aries moon at that point, but intuitively, which I'll kind of talk about the Cancer moon, I knew just to hold her and to kind of just let her know I was there. She could blow off steam as much as she wanted. And I'll never forget, this woman came up and accosted me in the grocery store for giving her space to have her temper tantrum because I knew she just needed to blow off the steam. It was hysterical. I felt like I was on Nanny 911 cam. I'm like, oh, no. But, Alisa, to your point, when we know about our moons and when we know about our children's moon and our spouse's moon, like Holly, you said your husband's like, peace out, man. All right. That's what I know with my daughter now. Let her have her fits. Let her, say whatever word she wants, stomp up and down, and then it's done. And she feels better and we move on and she can get back to her normal, intense, focused Scorpio self.
Yep. Working with the blend of energy that is in all of us. So awesome. All right. I think we've covered Aries. So let's move on to a Taurus moon. And Katie, I think you've got somebody you're going to talk about.
Yeah, my husband is a Taurus moon, and oh my gosh, what a great moon to have with a husband. It's exalted in Taurus, so he is always so kind and so gentle and so slow to anger. It's almost scary, but it's very, very nice. When he is a little angry and he does get pushed that far, he tends to need to be alone. He shuts down a little bit and he craves grounding through like really earthly things. So we spend a lot of time at home when he is feeling like that, leave him alone, watch a movie, not really trying to push him to do anything he doesn't want to do. He's got to figure this out all on his own almost. But as far as taking care of me when this Taurus moon shines, it's amazing. He'll cook for me. He'll bring me things that I need. He'll be like, "Oh, do you need your water refilled? I'll go do that for you." So that part is really nice, but he can be a little stubborn when it's triggered. And so just giving him that space and letting him, stay at home and watch TV. That's what he needs at that time.
That's an awesome point. And I also love that we've got a man that we can talk about here, because I feel like lots of times as women, we unpack this and try to figure people out and are more open with our emotions. And I know that's a big generalization, but I think it's fairly true and accurate that a lot of men do not want to speak about their feelings or let people know what they really need. So I think that you're spot on. And I think it's really cool to hear about a man and his moon. And it's kind of funny because I got thinking about my brother when you were talking, because my brother has a Taurus moon, and just something very, very little, like when you said that the moon is exalted in Taurus, which it is, and how he likes to take care of you and cook good food for you. So my mom has made this dish for years, linguine with clam sauce. It's really yummy. I make it too. Well, my brother has had to doctor it up. It can't just be the linguine and the clam sauce. He's got to throw shrimp in there too, and bacon, and he's got to get all the extra little flavors to make it extra Taurus delicious. So it's just kind of funny. And now it's like, well, why do I even bother? Let me just go to Greg's house and have him make this wonderful food for us. But it's true. And I love how you said that when he's having a hard time, just let him hunker down and ground himself and stay home. I love that. Does anybody else have any Taurus moon thoughts or anything else you want to say? Awesome. Yeah, Taurus moon husband. That would be a good one to go get. I like that. All right, Gemini. So, Irina, I think you've got some people you can talk to with a Gemini moon.
Yeah, we have a family friend who has a Gemini moon, and this is an extremely creative person. Their mind is going all the time, 24/7. And what I have found that is so interesting is that the anxiety and the stress, and even what they feel like it's OCD like behaviors, what they've been able to do, the more that they learn about their Gemini moon and they work with it because it's an air element and it's connected with the mind, ruled by Mercury, is that by going into the mind rather than fighting all these thoughts that come all the time and spin constantly, utilizing practices where you give the mind something to focus on so it can relax. I found that dialoguing, talking is so impactful and powerful with a Gemini moon. Like, you never want to say to someone with a Gemini moon, oh, just relax, just take a gummy, you'll be fine. It's like, no, they need to be able to work with their speaking, with their thought, with their intellect, talk it out. Long conversations. At times they'll hide maybe the overwhelm or the stress and anxiety through lots of nervous chatter. That's the other thing, is that I find if they work with their breath, if they utilize different hand gestures from the yoga tradition, mudras, it can help calm the mind. And they get into a place where with a Gemini moon, they're so curious and they've got this intellect that encourages them to go much farther into the conversation. But when they are stressed and overstimulated and overwhelmed, they need to get out of that overstimulation, and not by dulling the nerves or the mind and getting into that kind of blurry state, but to be able to channel the thoughts through some kind of mental activity that's calming. And I always say, work with your hands. You know, my grandmother said, idle hands are the work of the devil. So get your hands busy, chop wood, carry water. And it's made a big difference for this Gemini moon because such a creative, curious spirit. And it would be a shame to have to dull that intellect with other substances. Instead, when she channels it, it's amazing what she does.
That's awesome. And I love how you also pointed out, don't ever tell them, oh, go relax. And if you notice somebody that's just chatty, 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 especially if it seems like someone's talking in circles, somebody that maybe you're not sure what their moon is at all. And here, maybe you're identifying somebody who's in stress, who has a Gemini moon, and just nobody is aware of the situation. So this is also really good to pick out clues and cues for what to look for in somebody, especially if somebody who normally acts a certain way is suddenly not. If they're exhibiting any of these signs, you know, same kind of thing. And I agree with you 100%. I've got a Gemini moon friend, and we got to talk it out, talk it out, talk it out, talk it out. And sometimes as the non-Gemini moon, you feel like you're getting nowhere for a long time. But this Gemini moon is getting somewhere. That's how they're climbing out of their stress. So I love that. Anybody else have anything to share on Gemini?
Yeah, I would add that I think a couple of us do coaching work as well, right? And you're exactly right. Being able to identify what some of these moon markers look like in our interactions. I think being able to ask really specific and thoughtful questions is a good way to help them distill their thoughts, right? There's so much swirl and so many topics and so many ideas happening that I think aggravate that stress, right? And so, how in the conversation can you ask them some very specific questions to help distill down the focus, maybe to a couple of points? And Irina, it almost sounded like you're describing, instead of dull it, download it. So whether you're doing that verbally or you're journaling it out, right? And that's sometimes nice because they have something to go back and look at later.
I love that. Yeah, journaling is another great way, especially if somebody's not comfortable speaking with somebody. As long as you're moving that information somehow, even silently in a journal, is huge. That's awesome. All right. Well, we're going to stick with Irina here because we're moving on to a Cancer moon, which is Irina's moon. So tell us about yourself and your Cancer moon.
Holy cannoli, the Cancer moon. We will cry at the drop of a hat. Really and truly, the overwhelming emotions that come up. There's an incredible amount of empathy, of feeling with a Cancer moon. And it's been a joy for me to hang out with people with Capricorn moons because they are such teachers. And I think I find that when we look at astrology, it's not that, this is my sun, my moon, or my rising sign, but we can learn so much from the other signs to help us navigate. Because the Cancer moon, growing up, I'd always hear, oh, why are you taking things so personally? You need to develop a thicker skin. You need to toughen up. There is just this ability to soak up what other people are feeling. It's a very nurturing, intuitive sign. So you tend to want to take care of other people, and often at the detriment of your own well being. For example, one time I was with a girlfriend outside, it's first day of spring where it's actually warm and the sun feels so good and the sun was shining. I didn't want to stop the flow of conversation because I knew it would ruin the moment. But I was so scared about the sun on my skin because I didn't have sunscreen on. My mom had just passed melanoma, but I didn't want to interrupt her flow and be disrespectful. So I sat there in complete fear and just a state of paralyzation because I wanted to give her the space to talk through the problem she was talking through. So there are so many moments like that I find with Cancer moons where you just want to make sure the other person feels seen and safe. There's a safety that the Cancer moon brings to a situation. So part of this has been able to have the emotions and feelings, trust the intuition that comes from those nudges and hints when you're being nudged to reach out to someone, like, are they okay? But at the same time, learning how to build, I'll say, healthy, energetic boundaries. That way, you're not constantly absorbing everybody's energy and emotions as if it was yours. Because Cancer moon wants to hide when they're stressed. They want to be home with the chocolate, the bonbons, and the rom-com. And, they'll come out eventually, but they like their little shell. And that's kind of part of the adventure.
I love it. I love it. And as the Capricorn moon here, the opposite to you, it's funny. It's like, that's so foreign to me, but I love hearing about it because it is so important. Anybody else have anything to say about Cancer moon?
Yeah, I want to add that, Irina, you tell me if this is true in your experience since you live it. I have a few friends and a client who are Cancer moon, and they tend to be energetic sponges, psychic sponges. And so my client who's younger is learning about those boundaries, right? How do I recognize when I'm being overstimulated by something I can't see, I can only feel? And so do you experience that sort of energetic overstimulation?
100%. And it's the whole reason I created the business that I have, which my tagline is making the invisible world visible.
That's right. Perfect.
Teaching these empathic, curious seekers that a lot of what they're feeling isn't 100% their thoughts, their feelings, their emotions. Because even if you are in a Cancer moon, you're just a highly sensitive person. If you're an empath, you really absorb and pick up. But I do feel as a Cancer moon, you've got a little bit of an insider edge on the psychic sponge absorbing everything. Yeah, it's a highly intuitive psychic sign like the other water signs. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good. So we're going to actually stick with you again for Leo because you've got some clients or friends that you can speak to a Leo moon.
Yeah, well, the Leo moon was a shocker for me. So I'd love to hear your thoughts because the Leo moon's very generous. They're very playful. They love to give. And, if they're not seen or if they give out all this love and generosity and they're not appreciated for it, it really hurts them. They kind of wear their heart on their sleeve. And I'll never forget, I was assisting a client at one of her big conference events, and she'd normally have me come up and bring people through like a meditation or an energy exercise. And I'm a ham. I love a stage. I've got Leo at my midheavens. I could tap into that Leo energy. So I got up there. I was having a blast. Everybody was laughing. I was engaging the audience. And afterwards, oh my God, I totally did not realize that I went too far. Like I just had too much fun up there because my client was so angry because in her heart, she felt like I stole the show. And she was so upset and so mean. And I thought, oh my God, I never meant to hurt you. I just wanted to support you. I just,
Right. You're a Cancer moon. You're trying to make her look good because you want to make others look good and
right.
feel good. Right.
Yeah. So, with the Leo moon, they are playful, they're engaging, they love to step into leadership roles and to really shine. And that's what they're called to do. It's a soul deep calling. But I've really learned it's important to watch a Leo's feelings because they're very tender and it's easy to step on them and not realize it. And so there's great compassion and empathy that I have when I'm with my Leo moon friends or even Leo sun friends. And I really want to highlight, listen, you're amazing. And these are all the beautiful things that I see about you. So just that way we can all shine. And really, it's connection over competition. It's knowing that there's a beautiful, and I'll end with this, but when in my yoga path, we talked about complementary energies. And you can have a beautiful blue, and the blue is so gorgeous. And when you weave in a little bit of orange, its complement, the blue becomes even brighter and more vibrant. And so does the orange because you bring in the complementary colors. So you create this tapestry of colors where blue could be quite pretty on its own. But when you bring in the other thoughts, just as you're doing here, Alisa, which is beautiful, life becomes more rich. It becomes more vibrant. And there's more opportunities and growth that way.
Love it. So we all can Leo shine in our own way when we are all together with all of our energy
Not me.
blends. I love it. All right. So let's move on to Virgo. So Lori, you've been quiet over there.
I have.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about a Virgo moon.
Well, I've been very quiet, and that tells you a little something about Virgo moon. Anytime we're in a new situation, we're going to kind of sit back and observe and take the vibe of what's happening. We tend to be a little bit shy and introverted. And when things get too intense, we're definitely going to pull back and go into our own little world. As a child, I was exceptionally shy. My dad he was a pharmacist and had his own pharmacy. And we would make the rounds to all of his friends that had their pharmacies on Saturdays. And it was the same routine every Saturday. And every Saturday, I hid behind my dad's leg but especially when anybody tried to talk to me, I did not want any attention. I didn't want any focus on me. And as you know, I'm a Leo South Node. I can't be special. I am not special. So, coupled with that Virgo moon and just extreme shyness. And I really didn't come out of that shell until I was probably 16, 17 when I started waiting tables and really learning how to interact with people. When I'm in a dark night of the soul and a deeply emotional space, I think and overthink things. And I will process what I interpreted as a potentially difficult interaction with a friend. I might process it for 3 weeks and I will run scenarios through my head, all the different scenarios, and worry about how I may have hurt them. In fact, yesterday, this is a perfect example of a Virgo moon. I was helping a friend of mine in her store, and she is also a Virgo moon. And one of her customers came in who hadn't been in 2 months. And my friend was so excited to see this customer. And she said, I just have to tell you, I am so sorry. The last time you were here, I said this thing that I think might have been rude. And I'm so sorry if I hurt your feelings. And that customer had no recollection of this weird interaction that my friend has been chewing in her head for 2 months.
Yep.
That is a Virgo moon. We think and overthink. It's ruled by Mercury. So it's the mind, and we're going to go a million places with it.
And that's a great thing. That's a great quality of a Virgo moon because Virgos can analyze information and go really deep with things. And where like a Gemini is all about all of the information. But then the Virgo, like, what do you do with that information? The spreadsheets and the analysis. Virgo minds are brilliant and you can do so much with it. But with that rabbit hole you're talking about, yes, the worry, anxiety, overanalysis, So, what advice would you have for a Virgo moon who's spinning in that analysis? What do you do to climb out of it?
That's a really good question. So I journal and I do lean on cognitive behavioral therapy techniques, which is exceptional for a Virgo moon because it allows you to use your intellect, but you're
Yeah.
using it to help yourself. So you think, well, I interpreted this interaction in this way. Is that real? Am I catastrophizing this? And you write out how you've spun it, how that could potentially not be true and not be accurate, and how my own history or experience is writing the story that way because of my own trauma or whatever. So, using cognitive behavioral techniques for a Virgo moon is very effective because it allows you to use that intellect, but you're using it for good and you're stopping that overthinking.
I love that. That's such a good tip. I had something else that I thought of, but I want to give the space to anyone else who has a comment first. No.
Oh,
So, one thing that
let me add
yeah,
one more thing about
yeah,
Virgo.
do it.
We will throw ourselves into work and we're at risk of becoming a workaholic. And when I went through the worst time in my life post divorce, I literally became a workaholic and it took me 8 years to get out of that. So I think Virgo moons need to be aware of that.
That's a really good point. The thing that you had said that also I wrote down to mention is when you said it wasn't until you were 16 or 17 years old that you worked at a restaurant, you started figuring out how to talk to people. Our moon signs are at their strongest when we're children. And as we get older, we start to grow out of some of the lower vibe aspects of the sign. Saw your little kitty cat there. Hello.
She was crying. So
I know. It's so cute. Um, there he is. And that was actually one of the major things that turned me on to astrology in the first place was realizing that my children, who were really little at the time, are not really their sun sign, they're their moon sign. Where our moon signs are the strongest when they're children, which is why poor Lori going on that same routine with her father every day, seeing the same people hiding every single time, it is the strongest it's going to be when you're a child. And then as you get older and you kind of grow into the rest of your energies and your moon can kind of take a little bit more of a backseat, except for when we get stressed out and it rears its ugly head again. And that's why we're doing this, is to talk to everybody out there and share tips and strategies on what to look for as adults. But that's just a really interesting point that here you were a teenager before you started to kind of figure out that piece of it.
yeah.
Cool. All right. So Libra, we have a Libra moon here. Katie, tell us about your Libra moon.
Well, like my husband, we're both ruled by Venus, so it makes fights at home better than I feel like it could be.
Oh
But
my gosh, that actually sounds awesome.
Yeah, very nice. But my Libra moon really has changed a lot since I've been a kid, but I think it'll continue to change as I grow. When I was a child, I was super, super social, involved in every single club and organization that you can ever think of, friends with everybody in the entire school. It didn't matter if you were cool or weird or nerdy or theater kid, like it didn't matter. I was trying to become friends with you. And so talking about Libra being the scales and having the balance, when I got older in my mid 20s, I had like a little bit of a breakdown and I completely separated from every social group. I went the other way on the scales and completely isolated myself. When it comes to Libra, I feel like that scales, you have to find the balance. A lot of times it's internal, and there's this balance that you need to find within yourself. And it's not easy. I feel like I'm always either overdoing it or underdoing it, and I cannot simply just sit in the middle. So when I'm really stressed, I tend to overdo, and then I get so stressed that I don't do anything at all for a little bit of time. And that's actually happened this past week. I was working at a band camp and I took on another job at another school, and I decided I would host events for my business and take on clients. And I think I've been getting like 4 hours of sleep. So definitely when a little bit stressed, you could see how the scales tip completely to one direction where it's just like, I gotta go, I gotta work, I gotta do all this stuff. And then this weekend, I've been just lounging on the couch, haven't really left the house. So it's back to the other way. Luckily, I feel like that other way to recover has become a smaller time period. We don't need to spend 6 months sitting in a house wondering what's next. I can recover a little quicker. But that internal conflict of I'm doing too much or I'm doing too little is just going to be there for the Libras. So you got to find something, even somebody else who's in your life, like my husband will be the person sometimes like, kind of have a lot of things on the calendar this week. Are you sure that's going to be a good idea? So just somebody to kind of keep you in check on what you're doing with your scales.
That's so
that.
awesome. I never thought about that for a Libra moon. I thought about the first thing you said about how you were very social and with this group and with that group and having all the friends, but I never thought about that balance part. And that is so huge. I mean, I think everybody struggles with balance to some extent, work life or self versus kids and family or whatever. But for a Libra moon, it's like that times 10. That's a big takeaway for me today. Thank you.
I was just going to say, I love that your husband, Taurus moon, taking care of the Libra moon and saying, is that too much for you this week? That's just really sweet.
So, Katie, do you find that people pleasing plays into your Libra moon? Is the balance sometimes how much do I give to others versus how much do I protect for myself and keeping that balance?
Yeah, I think that it definitely plays a part. It wasn't until maybe 5 years ago that I learned that you could set boundaries, that was a thing that was possible. I feel like I did a lot growing up, things for other people. Like I would choose activities, I would behave in certain ways, dress in certain ways for other people. I would try to make myself not really a chameleon, but like I didn't have my own identity, I guess. So finding my own identity and what actually interests me. And interestingly enough, talking about moons and talking about childhood, going back into my childhood, going back to when I was young and finding that I'm interested in a lot of the same things I was interested in when I was 6, 7, 8 years old. And there was a point to that. And I lost some of that along the way. And coming home to myself and who I was as a child, as an adult, has been a really interesting journey and has separated me from that people pleasing a little bit.
That's really interesting. And this is kind of off topic, but something we can dive into at another time. You recently had your moon return because that's right before your Saturn return. And I just think it's very interesting in light of what you just said. That's probably around the time that you really kind of figured out your tie from childhood moon to adulthood moon.
Yeah, I think my moon return happened I think everybody's around 27 and a half years old. That's about 3 years ago almost. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's awesome. And thank you for explaining what that was. I just went squirrel and got excited, and we'll talk more about that another time. But that's awesome. Oh, so cool. Anybody else have anything to say about a Libra moon? Okay, so Katie, we're going to stick with you because you're going to also talk about a Scorpio moon.
Yes, my sister is a Scorpio moon and she is it to the T. She does not share anything, keeps all of her emotions closed down under lock and key. You can ask her a direct question and you might not get an answer back. She is highly intuitive, but she doesn't like to go all the way into the depths with it. So she can, because she is the Scorpio and can really dig down into it, but I think it scares her a little bit. So she also hides that under lock and key. And so anything that comes up, like with childhood, with our childhood together, or her growing up and finding her own place to live, and it's like, oh, Kelly, you're moving this weekend? And she's like, yeah, I'm moving. It's fine. Or she's dating somebody for like 3 years. And I found out like 3 years later. I was like, I didn't know you had a relationship. Like, does not disclose anything. And you can't even necessarily ask the right questions because if they don't want to share it, they're not going to share it. But I have found that just being an open ear for her when she does want to share, because she is the Scorpio moon, sometimes her thoughts are going all the way to the depths of the ocean and she is deep in thought, that she doesn't have a place that she feels safe and trying to be that safety place for her to talk about those things. So just sitting on the phone with her, sometimes we'll be on the phone for 3 hours and she'll only talk for 30 minutes of the phone conversation. She'll just need that body that's sitting there willing to listen when she is ready to speak. But it's not going to just constantly be flowing. It's not going to be like that Gemini moon that you talked about earlier. That's like talking, talking, talking. But anytime she really feels like, okay, now's the chance for me to say this, I'm there sitting on the phone. We're both washing dishes, doing our chores throughout the day. And then she'll just chat when she feels ready to chat. And it works. It works for her.
So how does this work? I mean, you're on like a 3-hour phone conversation with dead air?
Yeah, we basically just live our own lives and we're going through our day and then we'll just check in sometimes. And sometimes I'll talk about what I'm doing. I talk a lot more than her. I have an air sign for a moon. So I'll fill the dead air or I'll just literally monologue what I'm doing. Like, okay, I'm driving to the store now and she's just sitting there on speaker. Yeah. So
Just along for the ride, but
yeah,
there in case she's ready to say something.
100%.
So can you tell when she's really stressed out, given that she's so private? What are the signs?
So she does have a good group of friends, but if it's been a while since she's hung out with them, or she's just been in her bedroom for a little while, she has like a TV in her bedroom. She plays games in there. She loves to read in there. So the door will be shut at my parents' house right now. She's back there for a little bit of time. So I'll know because they'll tell me she's been in the room for a little while, just kind of has the door shut, not really out in the world. She hunkers down in her little cave.
That's a really good point because Scorpios feel so deeply and so intensely. And I think, especially if there's younger Scorpios that don't know how to manage the intensity of those feelings, and they're also very private people. So they're not going to be willing to share. And so, if anybody out there has a Scorpio moon friend or family member, look for these signs because your Scorpio person is not going to tell you.
Also, can I add on to that? I think
Yeah.
moon in the eighth house is going to express in that way a bit too. My moon is in the eighth house, and I'm very private when I'm super emotional and don't feel comfortable sharing with the world. So,
And the reason why Lori just went to eighth house is because that's the natural house of Scorpio and the natural wheel. Every sign of the zodiac correlates to the natural wheel. So that's why she went there. That makes sense. Where our moon is placed in the chart also has a layer of whatever that natural sign is. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah. And I'll chime in really quickly. I'll second that because my moon is also in the eighth house. So it's a very intense placement. And Katie, I'm curious, do you notice with your sister that she can take a lot on, but like when she reaches her breaking point, does there come a point where it's just, I find that the Scorpio moon is slow to anger, but when that final straw hits, it can be quite explosive or even destructive.
Yes, I think that she is very slow to anger. And yeah, the explosiveness will happen sometimes, but it takes a lot for her to get there. And then once it explodes, it's over. And then we're just back to our normal thing. I'm a Scorpio sun. So being a sibling with a Scorpio sun and a Scorpio moon, and actually our moons and suns are switched. So we can talk about that in another time. But she is a Libra sun. And so it's very interesting how we balanced out each other through our childhood and adult life.
so you guys have each other's moon and sun in reverse?
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
I feel like we could do a whole show just on that.
I was
You
just
can,
thinking that.
and we will.
That's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. All right, well, let's get a little lighter here. Let's talk about a Sagittarius moon. Lori, I think you've got somebody that you can talk about.
I do. My bestie, outside of my Astro Besties, my bestie and my
In
compadre
real life?
do everything with. She is a Sag moon, And when she gets stressed, she needs to go and move and be out there doing things. She, on her days off of work, like if she takes a Tuesday off in the middle of the week, she is out at the coffee shop getting coffee, and then she's off to the art museum, and then she's going to go to the bookstore, and then she's going to meet about 10 new people, and she will probably exchange phone numbers with a few of them. And, and she is out and about in the world all the time. And I love it. But here's a great example of a Sag moon and a Virgo moon. Yesterday, I was going all day. I had brunch. I worked at my friend's store, and then I went to dinner with friends. And then I was supposed to go out dancing at 11 o'clock last night. And I went, nope, Virgo moon just can't. And Sag moon, best friend Sag moon was like, let's go. Come on, let's go. And Virgo did stay home, but Sag moon did go out and stayed out till 1 or 2 in the morning. But those Sag moons just want to be out there and active, and they're fiery and they're passionate, and they want to meet people and do things. And I think a good example of Sag moon under stress. So she went through a challenging breakup last fall and did a lot of processing, a lot of talking for a couple of weeks, and then was on the dating apps and meeting people and talking to people and not really finding her match, but she just needed to be out there. She just needed to be out, feeling like she was doing something and moving the energy forward. And that's fire. Fire just needs to feel the energy moving.
My stepmom is moon and Sag, and this is very much her. Like,
Yeah.
not just moving, but outdoors, right? She fell in love with golf later in life, in her 40s, and she's, a golf fanatic now. And that's what she has to do. When she's stressed or unhappy, she needs to get out, get some fresh air,
Mhm.
and does not like to be locked down in one place, locked down at home.
Yeah.
And when that happens, right, she has to think differently about, how do I connect with people if I can't move too far beyond where I am right now, right? Because she's taking care of someone or whatever the case may be. But yeah, it's very similar to what I experienced with her.
And it's funny too, because both of my kids are Sag moons, and very similar to what Irina had mentioned with her daughter having the Aries moon tantrum. My kids don't necessarily tantrum so much on like a huge Aries style fit, but they will explode with emotion quickly and have it be over. That's another fire sign trait. They also will say whatever they're thinking in the moment, whether
And I
it's
was going to ask that. Do they say sometimes?
Yeah, they will just blurt out whatever's on their mind, appropriate or not, whatever setting they're in, and we're all kind of like, okay.
That's my bestie. That's my bestie.
Yeah, and that can,
Whatever she's thinking, she's saying it.
yep. So it's interesting. And I definitely can see with my kids, they are in constant motion. They always want to go do things, which is good because I like to go do things too. So it works out. But yeah, that's definitely like hold somebody down at home. Nope, that's not going to be a happy Sag moon. All right. Anything else on Sag? Okay. So moving on to Capricorn. I have a Capricorn moon. And I said a minute ago that Irina and I are opposites here. My Capricorn moon is about as opposite as what Irina just described about Cancer. Capricorn moon is very much suck it up, buttercup, and keep on going and get it done. And, we're very stoic. We still feel very, very deeply. Things bother us just like anything else, but we're not going to show it. We're going to definitely have that stiff upper lip. We're going to just work it out, like go to work, be accomplishing tasks, whether it's actual physical work, I'm going to go to work, or whether it's getting things done around the house. Capricorns are also very organized and all about order and structure and scheduling. I manage my family household schedule, and I actually get kind of excited when it's a new month and I can put everybody's activities on a fresh, clean calendar and have it all ordered out so I know what everybody's going to do, so that then we can do all the fun, adventurous Sagittarius moon thing that my kids want to do. But I have to know when we're going to fit it in and kind of in the big picture of the order of our lives, right? Capricorns, we also worry an awful lot, similar to what Lori had mentioned, although our worrying is mostly relative to results. Am I going to be able to get this done? Am I going to be able to meet this deadline? Oh, I've got 5 things I need to do. Am I going to be able to do it and do it well? And lots of times I can't rest and go and take a break unless I've accomplished a few things. So it's funny, I actually have learned I get up really early in the morning. I go get my workout in because that's just good for my mental state. And that's also a very Capricorn thing because that's discipline. I have the same routine every single day. It grounds me. It makes me feel secure in what I'm doing for the day. And I go out and I work out and then I come home and I get as much work done as I can. Because if I have a day, even on a weekend, where I'm just lounging around and watching TV with my kids or whatever, all of a sudden it'll be like 11 o'clock and I'm like, oh my God, I haven't gotten anything done. Oh my, and I just start freaking out and I'm like, I've got this and this and this. So I've just learned no matter what, like sleeping in's not really for me. I need to get up. I need to be productive. I need to get things done. And like I said, I definitely feel very deeply, but you're not going to see it unless I'm really, really, really in a bad way. So I don't know. Does anybody else have any Capricorn thoughts?
I love a Capricorn moon, right?
Oh, well, thank you.
My Aries moon is the emotional warrior, which when I'm upset, I'm down for a fight. Like, let's rumble. I'm ready to go, right? I used to fantasize about being a roller derby girl, and my derby name being migraine, right? Because I get them and I receive them. I love a Capricorn moon because I think of them as an emotional boss. And in my corporate roles, I have inadvertently surrounded myself with Capricorn suns and moons. They're great complement to my style because my Aries wants to get shit done. Capricorn can take that, right, and say, we're going to get shit done. And this is what it's going to be in this order. And that, like you said, Alisa, it doesn't show up in the same overt way as the opposite Cancer moon does. I just feel like we need all kinds of those reactions in the world, right? I worry that, you see people on true crime situations where they didn't, quote, react emotionally like we would expect of them. I would suspect a good number of those people could be Capricorn moons. Yep. Because they're processing through this, right, in a very different way.
In a business life.
That's right. What do I need to do? What do I need to take care of? What, et cetera. How am I going to get this done? How am I going to navigate? So I love the nice grounded.
I don't know if my kids like it so much. It's funny. One of the prompts for why I wanted to talk about moon signs is because a few weeks ago, my daughter was having these really big emotions. And I don't even remember exactly what it was relative to, but she came home from camp and she was all upset and just losing her mind. She was just crying and wailing and this and that. And I really thought that I was giving her space, and go ahead, feel it, do your thing, And I guess not, because she later said to me, she goes, Mom, you're really not being very empathetic right now. My 9-year-old tells me this. And I'm like, okay, my Capricorn moon is showing again, even though I really, really thought that I was being better than I usually am. What can I say? Suck it up, buttercup. That's what I'm all about.
But Alisa, this is what I love. And I love you bringing all of us together like this because so many times we beat ourselves up for who we are. And, working in the world of intuitives and empaths, by looking at the astrology, we have a plan laid out in front of us that says, no, your soul came in to experience this for some reason. You're going to be a bit of a crybaby and take everything way too personally. So it's great to have Capricorn. I don't have to look at myself and be like, if somebody says suck it up buttercup to me, I will be mortally wounded. I'll be like, oh my God.
I would have never said that to Irina, I will say.
A parent is overly babying. They got a scrape and I'm like, oh my God, before they come here, let me kiss the bobo. But we do. We need each other. It's such a beautiful, beautiful thing to lean on one another's strengths and then realize that we bring our own gifts, that we don't have to change in order to be something that we were never meant to be in the first place.
That's right. Celebrate everybody's differences. That's what this is all about.
Life would be pretty boring if we were all the same anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So
Definitely. Well, speaking of another difference, Aquarius, I'll take this one as well because my husband is an Aquarius moon. And this is a tricky moon because Aquarius is all about the intellect and kind of detaching and stepping back and not really wanting to feel into the emotions. And for many, many years, I mean, I was with my husband for over a decade before I discovered astrology. And we would I would really struggle. I don't know if he would struggle. He wouldn't really talk about it, but I would struggle sometimes when we would be in an emotional situation or I would be upset about something and he just wouldn't want to talk about it. He would kind of detach or he'd go into fix mode, because he'd already be thinking, well, okay, well, let's get some things better for everybody. Like what do I need to do? And again, even though I just said I'm a Capricorn moon, suck it up, buttercup. Sometimes I was upset, as we all are. And it wasn't until I discovered astrology and I started to really learn about an Aquarius moon is that the information is what's going to make a difference for him. So I have learned that whenever I'm interacting with him, if I'm really upset about something or a situation or something that we really do need to talk through that's important, because hello, we're married, stuff's going to come up. I have learned to send him an email or a text where I get the information to him first so he can kind of sit with it. He can detach from it himself, from the emotion, so that then by the time we come together to talk about it, that it's more productive. He's already had his detachment. He's thought about it. He also has learned about me that he can't fully detach. And the reason why Aquarius moons, I think, want to detach is because they really look at things from a zoomed out perspective. Aquarius people are all about the greater good of all. They're all about the collective, the community. What's good for one is better if it's good for all. And so truly, he wants me to be good because I'm part of the all. And I know he cares about me very deeply, but he looks at things in such a different lens. And so this has really helped for us to be able to communicate better, especially about the important, more emotional things in life and for me to now learn how to allow him to have that space. And I'll tell a story about him in particular having a really, really rough day a couple weeks ago. July is the month, several years back when he lost his father. And so on the day that this comes around every year, it's always a rough day. And this year, I really kind of left him alone for most of the day, whereas lots of times I've tried different things. Hey, what you want to talk about it, this and that. And it's funny, he kept himself very busy. He was actually detaching in a very healthy, productive way. He went out and played pickleball. He went on a bunch of errands. And pickleball, he plays in a group. So it's like a group activity that's also very Aquarian. Get with your friends and go do something. And then he was watching shows and just kind of doing his own thing. But at a certain point, I came up to see him in his office later in the day. And I was like, hey, how are you doing? And he said, oh, I think I'm just dehydrated. And I was like, okay, you don't want to talk about this. I know that it's not just that you're dehydrated. I know you're really struggling today. But I said, oh, okay, you want some water? No, I'm good. And so that was probably around like 7 or 8 o'clock at night. And me inside, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got to address something at some point. I've been thinking about your dad all day. So finally, at the end of the night, I sent him a text. I had already gone to bed and I sent him a text and I just said, hey, I know this has been a really rough day. I've been thinking about you all day. I've been thinking about dad all day, and I said a few things, memories. And he wrote back just in the information way. He couldn't have any kind of display of feelings, right? He didn't want to let himself get to that point where he'd feel that emotion in the way that we would see it. I mean, of course, he's felt the emotion all day, but he dealt with it differently. And I just thought, man, this might have been the most productive way we've ever gotten through this day together. So I don't know. Aquarian moons, you're not going to get them to feel in the same way that you may feel, but they do. They feel. They do it much more intellectually and collectively. So I don't know if anybody else has anything else to add on that.
Well, I have a question, Alisa. Do you find that with the Aquarian moons, it's very important to give them their space, especially when they're stressed, rather than chasing after them and continually asking questions? Is it important to just be like, okay, you need to go. You need to go play pickleball. That's great. You need to go for a drive. Okay.
Yeah, I think that is true. And that's probably where early on in our relationship, before we kind of figured this out about each other, where I would kind of push on, well, what do you mean? What do you mean you don't want to talk about this? Or what do you mean? Like, I don't want you to just, and you're right. Maybe just let it lie, let the space be there and know that it will come back. Because I will tell you, he has demonstrated so many times how much he loves and cares about me. It's just not in those ways. You know what I mean? Like, it's not in the talk about the emotions,
I have a close relative who's an Aquarian moon, and she will say, the worst thing you can do to me is mother hen me.
Dang.
Do not mother
Oh,
hen me.
yes.
Don't tuck me in. Don't tell me how to eat. Don't blah, blah. Like, I know what needs to be done. And her solution under stress is always, so what do we need to do?
Yeah.
Like, okay, so where do we go for, no, what do we need to talk about? What do we, no, it is, well, so what do we need to do?
Well,
Like,
Yeah.
it's ruled by Saturn, Saturn is going to just get down to business.
yeah.
Yep. What do we need to do? And actually, that's exactly where we had been early in our relationship, where I'd be upset and he'd be like, well, what do we need to do? And I'm like, but I need, like, no, I'm not ready to do anything yet. But yeah, he's a man of action. Yep. Cool. All right. Well, let's round it out with Pisces. Holly, I think you've got a Pisces person.
Yeah. So my fiery moon married a Pisces moon many, many years ago. So if you think about Pisces moon in general, like the other water moon signs, Cancer and Scorpio, emotions run deep for sure. Sensitivity runs high, as does intuition and picking up vibes around them. And so I think my husband demonstrates very classically what that looks like with moon and Pisces. So the big thing is when he's upset, the first thing we have to tease out is, what is he upset about exactly? Because throughout the day or the week, right, a lot of things have attached to him. They've happened. Some of it's truly his stuff. Some of it's the stuff of others. He's very sweet, very compassionate, very empathetic. And so if he's been nurturing other people throughout the week and that's pulled on him and then something else has happened, it's first figuring out what is the thing, right? Because with Neptune ruling Pisces, it can be foggy and tricky and not real clear about what it is. And so I think that the thing I want to say for everybody who has a moon in Pisces, because it's shown up for eons in astrology, is that moon in Pisces can be susceptible to addiction, right? An addiction can be different things to different people. It can be classically what we think of addiction, right? In terms of substance. It could be gambling, sex, whatever, right? So when you have a Pisces moon, most will try to escape, right? Let me escape this emotion. It's heavy. It's weighing me down. I can't just deal with it at a surface level. It can be all encompassing. And so if I can just open the escape hatch, that's my fast way out instead of sort of trying to drain the ocean, which is the slow way out. And so I think if you know that, you can start to think about what are some ways to escape that are healthy, right? Because there are healthy ways to escape. And so what that has shown up for him has been really two things. One is music. So at the end of a bad day, a bad week, a bad event, right? whether it's in the car or sitting on the front porch or the back patio and having music to listen to. That's a big part of it. He plays the bass, so focusing on playing music, even if it's in his office in the space where he was stressed out, can really just sort of redirect that into something productive. We lived in Florida for 20 years before we moved to Denver. And we were avid boaters. And so our big Friday routine was we both worked a ton in corporate America. So by the time Friday came along, we'd both put in over 50 hours. We would cut out and meet at the dock and go out on our boat. And I could literally see the stress from the week wash away from him just being on the water. So doing things on the water, whether that's now because we're in the mountains, kayaking. He maintained a 150-gallon saltwater fish tank for years on his own, like learned how to do it instead of hiring people. And that what I saw it as work. I was like, this is, he saw it as sort of caring for this environment and these fish and, learning to do something new. I think he just enjoyed it so much. So I think with a Pisces moon, understanding that escapism is a real inclination and that there's different ways to do it. And if you're inclined, if you're water oriented, a lot of, he's also a stellium Scorpio. So he's very water dominant in his chart. So it definitely shows up that way.
I love that. You're right. And another positive way to kind of handle that escapism is through meditation,
Absolutely.
journaling again.
Yep.
It's funny. My mom is actually a Pisces sun. She also has Mercury in Pisces. So not the moon, but I remember as a child, she would always, like at a certain point in the afternoon, need to go upstairs and put on her headphones at her unpack. And she just would say, I'm going to Nana land. And I'm like, okay, mom's in Nana land. Like every day. But then she'd come back after 20, 30 minutes and she's good.
He meditates every single day after work. I meditate with him, but it is no matter the state that he starts in, he comes out the other side of that, right? Better, calmer, more grounded than he was.
That's awesome. Anybody else have anything to add on Pisces moons?
I did want to add, if you're not a big fan of journaling, a Pisces moon would be really good at like just painting out their feelings. So if you're not like, if writing in a journal does not interest you, painting, like it doesn't have to be good. You're not like trying to be the next Bob Ross, but it could really help get those emotions onto paper in a different way, in a more fluid way. And then even if you like the idea of journaling, but putting pen to paper sounds like a lot, you can always just like press record on your phone and talk at your phone and make like an audio journal. So there's lots of options.
I love that. And I especially love what you said about the painting piece because so much of Pisces is all about pictures and the flow. And you're right. Sometimes the words are not really what a Pisces moon needs, but the imagery. So even photography, but I love the painting. Oh my gosh, you guys, we unpacked all the moon signs. Yay. This was so fun. Yeah. And one thing that I heard a few different times today, whether we talked about a person that had a different placement, whether it's a sun or a north node or a south node or a Mercury or whatever, that's what's so cool about astrology is that it is so much more than just your sun sign. And that's why I wanted to get everybody together to talk about how astrology shows up in real life based on all of the different places that all of the other planets were at birth, because that's what blends together our charts. And that's what makes us all so unique. That's why there are no two Aries that are the same exact person that are going to read the horoscope online and have it all fit. It's because everybody's got a different combination of all these planets and all these different signs. And kind of like Katie talking about her flip-flop of her sun and her moon with her sister. It's like they have a lot of commonality, but also a lot of difference because sun versus moon is very different. Mm-hmm. So it's just really interesting. And that's why I am so excited to bring it all together and continue these conversations and just keep doing this because we're all going to be so much better together if we know ourselves well, if we know others well, and if we can bring this out into the world. So that's what I love. And I just love all you ladies so much. And I'm so excited to keep doing this.
Thanks for having us. I love this.
Yeah. So before we go, why don't you all introduce yourselves, and I'll leave links in the show notes for anybody's website. But if anybody wants to connect with you all, I'd want to give you the opportunity to share who you are. So Holly, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, for anybody who wants to reach out to me, you can go to my website, mavenastrology.com, or you can email me, Holly, HOLLIE, at mavenastrology.com. I'd love to hear from you.
All right, Katie.
You can find me at theevergreencosmos.com. I'm also on meetup.com under the same name, Evergreen Cosmos. You can find me there too.
Awesome. Irina.
You can find me, my website's irinamiller.com, and then my weekly moon show every Monday at 9:30 on YouTube. You can just search for Irina Miller and I'll pop up.
Awesome. And Lori.
Website is under construction, but right now I can be reached at LoriORN@yahoo.com.
I love it. And I am Alisa from Astrology with Alisa. You can reach me at www.astrologywithalisa.com or right here. And I've got a podcast that drops weekly, anywhere you podcast, Apple, Spotify, anywhere. And it's Astrology with Alisa. So I am looking forward to more of these with my very favorite Astro Bestie friends. And until next time, thank you guys.
Thank you, everyone.